I had a weird psychic experience yesterday, which is saying something for me. But it was this weird cosmic moment where I had both a past life memory and then it mixed with precog, with future vision. And it was extra weird because what triggered this is driving by a bank. So I saw this new bank and it struck me because I've never seen architecture like that, at least not modern architecture. And it didn't look like any of the buildings around it. And it reminded me of the architecture of the 1930s. It was brick, it had a lot of like long vertical lines, it had long vertical narrow windows, sort of that like 1930s aeronautic influence of that architecture. And so initially I was just like, oh, I like that. Like, I like pretty things. And so I was like, oh, well, she cute. But that reference, that memory of like, oh, this looks like the buildings of the 1930s. And it sent me back to this past life memory, a very benign, nothing kind of past life memory. But I was a woman and I was walking down some sort of Main Street USA kind of thing. And there's all the little shops and everything. And I was going to the bank. And this bank was very similar. Oh, I'm seeing the bricks were like a yellow. They were like a light colored brick, where the one I saw yesterday was a deep red brown color. But it was a very similar structure. And so I had that memory of being back in this time, in that nostalgia for like a simpler time when things were easy. I mean, they weren't, it was the 1930s, but it was that nostalgia, right? And that's when I got like rocketed into this precognition. And the thing you have to understand about being psychic is these things that happen, these insights and realizations, it's not in linear time. It doesn't necessarily unfold one after the next. Sometimes this is why we call it a download, because it's not always that I'm getting a linear progression of thoughts or insights. It's like one giant ball of thing. it's just one thing. And then I'm like, whoa, and I have to stop and slow down and unpack it and force it to be linear. So all of this happened in the one moment as I was like admiring this bank, and then it was like, whoa. So this future cognition thing I got, it was an insight into how we're going to see more architecture that reflects the past, but that this is more than a design trend. It's more than nostalgia. It's more than design recycling. What I was shown is that as we continue to go forward as souls in our ascension, in our progression, part of that process, which I know and have been meaning to talk about, part of this process is integrating more aspects of our eternal soul. So that means other lifetimes that we've lived, other planets we've lived on, other experiences as just a soul not incarnated. They're all going to become part of our current incarnation. We're going to have greater access to all of these different aspects of soul. This is part of a process known as embodiment, which I've been meaning to talk about, so maybe I'll do that later today. Anyway, so the insight I got, this precog, is that in the future, the near and the distant, like in the next, I'm hearing both 5 to 100 years, like it's a big period of time. But as this happens, we're going to be repeating the past in a beneficial way. And this was like a very specific insight I got. We're going to be very specifically recreating the things from our past that worked best for humanity. So it will be less a focus on expansion and future and innovation. That will still be there, but there will be a greater emphasis on revisiting what has already worked for previous iterations of self, which is so amazing. Love that journey for us. So it's not only going to be that, good as we revisit what worked best and we get back to more. I kept seeing this thing of like, before capitalism and globalization really just made everything cray, it gets back to what's more grassroots and organic and community. Everyone's been getting all this stuff about communities are so important. Back to community and getting things local and having everything we need right in our area. It's getting back to the ways humans have been doing that for thousands of years. Not because we were simple and we couldn't, put items on a cargo plane, but that it was best for humans. And the overlap with this is going to be more of a focus because of how we integrate past and parallel aspects of self within the body for the embodiment part of ascension. So, yeah, that was cool. All this one little, like, what kind of moment just driving by a bank. This is why being psychic is awesome and confusing, but awesome.